and God will help us. All right. Happy Sabbath once again, brethren. Happy Sabbath once again, brethren. Are we cold? Yes. Okay, sorry. I hope we had a very good week. I had a very good week. I've been on some kind of holiday from work, from like official work, but I've not been on holiday. In fact, the stress has been, but it was a good week. So, some years ago, how many of us know the program, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? Okay, you do. You know it? Very good. So, years ago, I was watching the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on the TV. And a man was on the seat. He was asked a question. I think the question was about the origin of the Portuguese footballer Eusebio. I think so. And before the host, Mr. Frank Edo, finished reading the question, of course, you know they were projecting on the screen. I already mentioned the answer. I was so sure I already mentioned the answer. And the funny thing is that the man on the other seat didn't know this very simple question. I was wondering, how will you not know this simple question? That was not even the part that moved me more than the fact that he was going to use one of his 3 lifelines to solve this simple question. And then he opted to use 50-50. And that was probably the second question. How will you be using 50-50, the second question, and this very simple question? And Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, you have 4 options. Of course, 3 will be incorrect, 1 will be correct. So when you are using 50-50 option, 2 incorrect options will be removed, left with the correct one and 1 incorrect. So you use 50-50. And then the computer deleted 2 options. And my answer that I've chosen, that my very sure answer, was one of the options that was deleted. I was like, I went mute. I was wondering, so that answer was wrong. I imagine being on that seat, I would have confidently chose that answer. No matter how Mr. Edo France try to convince, I would say I'm sticking with that final answer. Because that was the second question, I would definitely go with 0 naira. So sometimes we think we are very sure of something, but because we are sure, because we think we are sure, does not mean we are right. We may be doing something, we believe something, and sincerely be doing it or believe it. That does not mean that is the truth. Sincerity versus truth. The paradox of zeal and misguided beliefs. Security versus sincerity. Did I say security? Sincerity versus truth. The paradox of zeal and misguided beliefs. So I just want to point out for us today that sincerity does not mean it's telling the truth. Because you are sincere does not mean you are doing the right thing. You have to be very careful to be sure that what we are doing is actually right. So we can be sincere, but at the same time wrong. In fact, I like putting it this way: you can be sincere, but sincerely wrong. And a lot of people are sincerely wrong. Let's turn to, for our first reading, Matthew 7. Matthew 7, verses 21 to 23. From verses 21 to 23. Matthew 7. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven. Not everyone who says to me, Lord, Lord, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father in heaven. Verse 22. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in your name, cast out demons in your name, and done many wonders in your name? Verse 23, and then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. Okay. In the world today, we know, and of course, it has always been like that. There are lots of false teachers, fake prophets, right? Teaching people heresy, falsehood. But there are people today also who sincerely believes that they are worshiping God and doing the will of God. And I believe those people here fall into this category, because they wouldn't have the audacity to tell the Lord that we cast out demons in your name if they weren't actually doing it in his name. These ones are not people who went to the devil to receive power to do miracles. They were really doing those things in the name of the Lord. But at the end, they still had the voice, I never knew you. So they were sincerely preaching in the name of the Lord, sincerely casting out demons in the name of the Lord, sincerely performing miracles in the name of the Lord, sincerely, but yet they were wrong. They thought they were doing the right thing, but unfortunately they were not. And then I will declare to them, I never knew you, depart from me, you who practice lawlessness. It could be because they do not understand the laws of God and they were not keeping the laws of God. The little thing they understood, they went with it, and they were sincerely very focused. They were sincerely very focused, trying to, do it the way they understood it. Revelation 12:9 tells us that the devil, I think, let me just quickly open there. Revelation 12, verse 9. So the great dragon was cast out, that serpent of old, called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, and he was cast to the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So there are a lot of people who are deceived, but they don't know. They have been deceived in the world. They think they are doing service to God. They think they are obeying God, but then they are wrong. They are deceived. In talking with people, I've heard people mention things like, if we are wrong, like if you are wrong worshiping on Sunday, if we are wrong. But of course, this sermon is not for them, it's for us as children of God. How does this affect us? What to believe? John chapter 16, verse 2. John 16, verse 2. I will read from verse 1. John 16 from verse 1. These things I have spoken to you, that you should not be made to stumble. Verse 2. They will put you out of the synagogues. Yes, the time is coming that whoever kills you will think that he offers God service. So Jesus was talking to the disciples here, prophesying of what is going to happen, that has happened in the past, and I believe will still happen in the future. People have been killed, and they thought they were doing it in the service of God. They were not trying to hurt or harm people. They were not they didn't have any devilish thoughts. They were sincerely trying to do service to God. So Jesus said, they will kill you, but they will think they are doing God a service. So some people harm and hurt others in trying to defend God, and for them they are doing it sincerely. And I know you may be thinking of a particular religion, but it cuts across. Well, maybe in our part of the world it's common to some particular set of people who believe that they can defend their God. Anybody that speaks against their God must be dealt with. But it cuts across. Even there are Christians who have fought, who believe they are sincerely fighting for God and have hurt or harmed others. Even traditionalists will do so. We read about Gideon and his father in Judges chapter 6. I think we can turn there and read verse 31. Judges chapter 6 and verse 31. As God commanded, Gideon went and pulled down the altar of Baal, the god that the father household worshipped. And then when they made the inquiry and they found that it was Gideon that did it, they came out all against him. We are going to deal with him. We are going to kill him. Like some people, we are going to burn him. He has desecrated our this. And then the father said something. Judges 6. Verse 31. I like this verse so much because for me it defines, it explains how it should be when you are trying to defend your God. Verse 31, but Joash said to all who stood against him, would you plead for Baal? Would you save him? Let the one who would plead for him be put to death by morning. If he is a god, let him plead for himself, because his altar has been torn down. We can't fight for God, right? If he is a god, let him fight for himself. If he is truly a god, somebody has put down his altar, and let him put down that person. So people do things, they hurt others, because they are trying to defend their God, and they are doing that sincerely. But of course, I believe you agree with me that was wrong. And we have examples of people in the scriptures that were sincerely doing things that they thought were right, but were actually wrong. An example was the Apostle Paul, or Saul, which he used to bear. Acts chapter 8. The book of Acts, chapter 8, verses 1 to 3. We all know the story of Saul and how Stephen, in the previous 2 chapters, was put to death, and Saul was there. He stood behind. The Bible said he held the clothes of those who were stoning Stephen. So those who were ready to stone, they removed their outer coat and they gave it to Saul. He was helping them to guard it. Acts chapter 8 from verse 1. Now Saul was consenting to his death, that's the death of Stephen. At that time, a great persecution arose against the church, which was at Jerusalem. And they were all scattered throughout the regions of Judea and Samaria, except the apostles. Verse 2, and devout men carried Stephen to his burial and made great lamentation over him. Verse 3, as for Saul, he made havoc of the church, entering every house and dragging off men and women, committing them to prison. Did you think Saul just went out of his own will because he just wanted to persecute people? He just felt the urge to deal with people? No. All he thought he was doing was defending God. He was very sincere. He was doing it with very sincere heart. He thought he was doing service to God, but of course he was not. He was wrong. The same Act, chapter 26 and verse 9. Act 26 verse 9. Indeed, this is Paul speaking, I myself thought I must do... Sorry, I'm coming. Okay, indeed, I myself thought I must do many things contrary to the name of Jesus of Nazareth. So, Paul here was saying he did a lot of things against God's name. And of course, you can read more in Acts chapter 9, from verse 1 to 22. And of course, that's also the story of the conversion of Paul, as he was on his way to Damascus to continue to harass and to persecute the Christians, those who are following the way of Jesus, which to him was a false religion, was a strange religion, which was against the religion of God, which he knew. Another example of somebody who did something sincerely, out of a very sincere heart, I believe, but led to something catastrophic, was Uzzah. 2 Samuel chapter 6. 2 Samuel chapter 6 from verse 1. When we do things, although out of a sincere heart, but not with the right knowledge or adequate knowledge, and we are doing something wrong, it could lead to a lot of different bad or negative consequences, from very mild to very deadly ones, like we are going to see in the story of Uzzah. Like we also read in that Matthew, where Jesus will say, depart from me, I never knew you. They lost eternal salvation because they were doing something wrong, even though they were sincere about it. 2 Samuel 6 from verse 1. Again David gathered all the choice men of Israel, 30,000, and David arose and went with all the people who were with him and with him from Baal, Judah, to bring up from there the ark of God, whose name is called by the name, the Lord of hosts, who dwelt between the cherubim. So they set the ark of God on a new cart, and brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart. Now, that was the first error. God gave specific instructions on how the children of Israel were supposed to carry the ark. To be borne on pole by the priests, the Levites. But here, David tried to modernize things, brought a cart, and then they put the ark of God on carts. And Uzzah and Ahio, the sons of Abinadab, drove the new cart. Verse 4. And they brought it out of the house of Abinadab, which was on the hill, accompanied the ark of God, and Ahio went before the ark. Then David and all the house of Israel played music before the Lord on all kinds of instruments of firewood, on harps, on string instruments, on tambourines, on sistrums, and on cymbals. And when they came to Nacon threshing floor, Uzzah put out his hand to the ark of God and took hold of it, for the oxen stumbled. I don't think that Uzzah was trying to show off. He was driving the new cart. The oxen stumbled. The ark was about to fall. And then he quickly, instinctively, I believe, tried to steady the ark. He did it out of his sincere heart, I believe. But it was sincere, but was sincerely wrong. Verse 7. Then the anger of the Lord was aroused against Uzzah, and God struck him there for his error, and he died there by the ark of God. So Uzzah either acted out of lack of knowledge of the fact that he was not supposed to touch the ark in the first place, or lack of adequate knowledge, or maybe he failed to apply or put into practice what he knew about the handling of the ark of God. So he was sincere. He wanted to save the ark of God from falling, but he was sincerely wrong, and he paid for it with his life. We can be sincere, but at the same time we can be sincerely wrong. We can think we are choosing the right option, but at the end of the day, we might have chosen one of the wrong options. If you read in the book of Matthew 16, 21 to 23, when Jesus was telling disciples that he was going to die, what did Peter tell him? Matthew 16, from verse 21. From that time, Jesus began to show to the disciples that go to Jerusalem and suffer many things from the elders and chief priests and scribes, and be killed and be raised on the third day. Then Peter took him aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Far be it from you, this shall not happen to you." Peter was definitely was showing love, was showing care for the master. What are you talking about? You want to die? No, never. It never happened to you. But of course, I was speaking out of a lack of knowledge. He had the zeal, but the knowledge was not there. But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men." I have so many other examples of people who did things out of what we would call a sincere heart, but because they were wrong, it doesn't change it doesn't stop them from facing the consequences of the action. Job's friend told Job, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, told Job point blank, all of them, they were arguing back and forth. All of them concluded, no man will face this kind of things you are going through. You lost your business, you lost your children, you lost your health, and you are saying that you have not sinned against God. You must be a very wicked man. You have to confess your sin. Just confess. God will heal you. But of course, we know what happened. Job 42, 7-9. You can write it down. God, of course, rebuked them for their point of view. And I just wanted to mention that too. Something bad can happen to anybody, irrespective of how you live. Maybe you are a sinner or not. Some people believe that when you become Christian, you cannot fall sick. If you are sick, then you might have committed one sin that you need to check. If you have one trouble, they must have done something. If you are praying for something and it's delayed, they have to check your life. Maybe there's one hidden sin. It's not necessarily the case, as you saw in the life of Job. Job tried to maintain his righteousness and tried to prove to his friend that he has not done anything worthy of the punishment with which he was facing. So our life as Christians will face a lot of difficulties, not because of the bad we have done, maybe because of the bad that we have done, but not necessarily because of the bad we have done. But all of this, how does it apply to us today? How does it apply to us today in clarity from truth? The answer I chose for that question was born out of whatever knowledge I had, which turned out not to be accurate. So if we do not have an adequate or accurate knowledge, and in this case of the Word of God, of the laws of God, of the things of God, it could affect how we relate, how we live. We may think we are doing the right thing, we may be very sincere, but it doesn't stop the fact that even though we are sincere in our hearts, as long as we are not doing the right thing, we face the consequence. Lack of knowledge or lack of adequate knowledge is very key. We need, as Christians, as children of God, to make sure that we are filled with the knowledge of the Word of God. When I was small, I was reading the Bible, and I came across a knowledge, an understanding. The wages of sin is death, right? And I understood it as sin brought death, and that's true. But my understanding then was the physical death. So in my young, small boy mind, I came to the conclusion that if you can avoid sin, that means if I don't sin, I will not die. Right? And we are not immortal beings. And the death that the Bible refers to, in that Romans 6:23, it's eternal death, spiritual death. For the wages of sin is death. It's not this physical death, we all die physically, but it is a spiritual and eternal death. So because of the lack of adequate knowledge, I had that, what I term knowledge then, what I term belief. But fortunately for me, in a couple of days or weeks, I was able to understand better that this is not talking about physical death. If you like, don't sin. If you like, sit in your house, don't go anywhere, don't talk to anybody, just be reading and praying the Bible, you will die physically. It has nothing to do with physical death. And a lot of heresies, a lot of doctrines, I will call it doctrines now, have been developed by people, have been taught, and churches have been built on it as a result of this kind of thing. Somebody just read the Bible and just discover something, and you are not well grounded in it. Don't compare to other things, don't try to check, and then you build a theology out of it, a doctrine out of it, and you start teaching it to people. So a lot of people, that's one of the reasons why we have different kinds of denominations and congregations. This one believes this one believes this, but we read the same Bible because of lack of adequate knowledge. Everybody is trying. There are some people that are doing fake or false things, they know it, but a lot of people are sincerely trying to do the right thing, but at the same time they are sincerely very wrong. Galatians 1 verse 6 to 9. Galatians chapter 1. Galatians 1 from verse 6. I marvel that you are turning away so soon from him who called you into the grace of Christ to a different gospel, which is not another, but there are some who trouble you and want to pervert the gospel of Christ. But even if we or an angel from heaven preach any other gospel to you than what we have preached to you, let him be accursed. As you have said before, so now I say again, if anyone preaches any other gospel to you than what you have received, let him be accursed. As children of God, what are the new ideas, new knowledge that are flying all around, and then we are holding in our hearts? And it's contrary to what you have learned from the Word of God, from the church. I'll just mention some few ones. I know outside the church there have always been discussion and argument and issue on tithing. I see argument and counter argument on social media. We should not tithe. Tithe is not this. But I also know that in the church of God we have people. But the Bible, I believe, and the church of God teaches that we should continue to pay our tithes as commanded by God. Both our first tithes and our second tithe that we keep for the feast. I'm not even going to talk much about that now. Then we also have people talk about the Sabbath day. I'm sharing with them because, of course, this is about us. Those who are outside don't even know about the Sabbath day. But some people are already saying that maybe the Sabbath day is not even fixed like every 7 days, not on Friday sunset to Saturday sunset. The Sabbath day can shift depending on different things. And in the course of the week, I saw a post. The person made a post saying that the concept of sunset to sunset is even wrong. The argument didn't even gel together, so I didn't even bother putting it. I can't even. The argument does not even make sense to me. And we have people who believe that Jesus couldn't have been born by the Holy Spirit. That Joseph is the real father of Jesus, and so many other things. Ecclesiastes 1:9 says there's nothing new under the sun, right? Most of all these things are not new. They've always been there. They will come, and then they will go, and then they will come again. They are not new knowledge. They have always been there. When we come across this kind of new doctrines, new teachings, new knowledge, what is good that if we don't understand, that we sit down to try to learn, to understand, to ask questions. But it will be wrong for us to start sharing with others that this is the latest truth when it is not, when it's untested. 1 Timothy 1. I think Paul had the message there. 1 Timothy 1, 3 and 4. First Timothy chapter 1, verse 3 and 4. As I urge you, when I went into Macedonia, remain in Ephesus, that you may charge some that they teach no other doctrine, nor give heed to fables and endless genealogies which cause disputes rather than godly edifications, which is in faith. So people talk about, there are so many of them that I've had over the couple of years and months amongst us that I cannot start mentioning now, about who Satan is, who is Lucifer, what is Satan, is Lucifer Satan, is he, and so many other things. But whatever truth we are hearing, whatever knowledge, whatever new idea that is coming up to us, we have to be careful how we accept them. I believe we are sincere enough. We want to learn the truth. We want to do God's. We want to obey God. But we have to be sure that we are not sincere but sincerely wrong. So what should we do? What should we do when we have this barrage of new information coming to us? 1 Corinthians 13 verse 9. First Corinthians 13 verse 9. This is also one of a very interesting scripture that I like, because it makes us see ourselves. For we know in parts and we prophesy in parts. Nobody has full knowledge of anything. So you may discover something new, very good, but you have to be humble enough to understand that your knowledge is in part. You may be missing something, right? If we had to bet on my answer that day before it was taken off the screen, I would confidently bet any amount. Like if it was good to bet, I want to bet, I will be confident that that is correct. So we have this idea that you think is true and is right. We need to
Okay. In fact, it's interesting that most times when you see people that know a lot, they always act like they don't know, and they always try to learn more. But those who don't know anything, that little one they know like this, they always act like we know all things. So if we are finding ourselves in a place where we believe we know it all, then you should know that something is wrong. We definitely don't know anything. The same 1 Corinthians chapter 8. I'll read verse 2. 1 Corinthians 8 verse 2. And if anyone thinks that he knows anything, he knows nothing yet as he ought to know. So if you think you know anything, just know that you don't know anything. There's a song in Yoruba, been long. Okay. When you can call it bon, to back bon to then you can bon, you are going to baba or bon. I don't know how to. Everybody here understands it. You are not the only wise person, as what the scripture says. You are not the only wise person. If you are wise and you think no other person is wise, you are the baba of the fools, you are the father of all fools. Although they say Obo is used to, Yoruba people will call somebody who they feel is stupid Obo. I don't know if monkeys are stupid anyway. So if you think you know anything, Bible is telling us that you don't know anything. So you have to be humble enough to understand that we do not know it all. We do not understand it all. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, the same 1 Corinthians, let's go to the first chapter. I'll read verse 26 and 27. This also to show us that the fact that you are even here, the fact that you are even a child of God, you have been called, should let you know that you have to be humble, because 1 Corinthians 1, 26 to 27, for you see your calling, brethren, that not many wise according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many wise according to the flesh. Not because we have learned people here, not because you call me prof. Not many wise, not many mighty. We have people who are training for boxing, yeah, but not that kind of strength. Not wise according to the flesh, not mighty, not many noble are called. The fact that you are called, you are here seated, should tell us to know that we are not the wisest in the world. We are not the strongest. We are not the best. God did not call us because we have wisdom, because we have strength. But God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise. And God has it was just let that be in our mind. As we come across whatever we can term new knowledge, new idea, revelation, whatever zeal we have, whatever belief that is coming to us, we have to be careful. And advice, what should we do when we reading the Bible and something jumps at us and it seems to make sense? What should we do when somebody, one a brother or a sister shares makes sense? There's a reason why we are in the church. We need authority over our lives, right? Ordained by God, inspired by God, with the wisdom of God. They are there for a reason. They are there to guide us. They are there to protect, to feed us. The best thing you would do, if you have any new revelation, is to approach the pastor and share with him. Right? The right thing will not be for me to now call it together. You know, this is the new thing now. This is the right thing. This one is wrong. This is right. Tell the pastor. If he feels that there is good things to it, that's what we do. We think, but the pastor is also human. Yes, they don't know it all. Yes, that's why, as members of the church, we need to continue to pray for our leaders in the church. Even Paul in 1 Thessalonians 5:25 says, "Brethren, pray for us." We need to continue to pray for them. So we have to be humble enough to understand that we don't know it all. We only know in parts, understand in parts. Don't come together and then these people believe we should pay tithes, these people believe no, we should not pay tithes. Worshiping together. These people believe that Jesus is the Son of God. Mary conceived Jesus by the Holy Spirit. Another group believes that no, Joseph Gongon is the father of Jesus Christ. Not that some people believe this, another believe that. So, brethren, to summarize what we have been saying, we can be sincere with whatever we are doing, but at the same time, we can be sincerely wrong. And this happens most times when we have inadequate knowledge of the scriptures. Like the story I gave, when I read that the wages of sin is death, and I was somehow convinced I was talking about this physical death. And we can try, I was trying to look at it like when God created Adam and Eve, He didn't say they were going to die until they ate the fruit. So they sinned, they disobeyed God, and then they were going to die. So if you don't disobey God, if we keep on obeying, if you don't sin, then we will not die. Unfortunately, that was wrong, right? The death he was talking about was not the physical death, it was spiritual death. The wages of sin is eternal death. And he continues, but the gift of the free gift of God is eternal life, through Jesus Christ. So it is eternal death against eternal life, not physical death. We are humans, we are mortal, we are not immortal. And those who believe that humans are immortal, and those who believe that somebody can die in a cartoon and they will go to, or should go to live. But the Bible says that the living know that they will die, but the dead know nothing. So whoever is dead, and has gone to rest and is sleeping, awaiting the resurrection, either to life or to eternal damnation. So you have to be humble enough to understand that we do not know it all. We know in part. You understand in part, you prophesy in part. You have to be humble enough to continue to seek knowledge, right knowledge, true knowledge of the Word of God, following the teaching of God and of the church. And you have to also understand that even though we are sincere, but if you are sincerely wrong, it will have dire consequences, which will be fatal, like in the case of Uzzah, or could even lead to eternal death, like the case of those who came to Jesus and said, "But we prophesied in your name, but we cast out demons in your name, but we teach people in your name, but we prayed for people, we performed wonders in your name." And the Lord will tell them, "I never knew you. You are doing all those things in my name, good. But I didn't know you. Go away from me." They were sincerely doing what they thought they were doing, but they were at the same time very wrong. We have new ideas coming to you. The best is not to start sharing it among the brethren, but to report to the appropriate quarters. And in conclusion, let's read out 1 Corinthians again. Chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 26 and 27. "For you see your calling, brethren, that not many wise, according to the flesh, not many mighty, not many noble are called, but God has chosen the foolish things of the world to put to shame the wise, things which are despised. God has chosen, and the things which are not, to bring to nothing the things which are, that no flesh should glory in his presence." That no flesh should glory in his presence. "But of him you are in Christ Jesus, who became for us wisdom from God and righteousness and sanctification and redemption. That as it is written, he who glories, let him glory in the Lord." So sincerity does not always mean the truth. That you are sincere does not always mean you are correct. Shabbat Shalom.